This video will be showing some tips and tricks for knitting. The best way to store all your knitting stuff is in one container. So this is just a toolbox that worked perfectly for knitting. This one happened to have a flap on the top that has dividers, which I have some pins for sewing up your projects, safety pins for last minute stitch holders. Then you have stitch markers in 2 different sizes. Then you have needle stoppers to put on the edge of your needles. And then in here it comes with a tray, which I have my knitting gauge. Then you have pencils. Then you have paper, note cards. Then you have either manicure scissors or a small pair of scissors just for your knitting, more safety pins, a measuring tape, scrap yarn for holding stitches or anything, this little finger thing to hold multiple yarns while you knit, then some rubber bands to hold some of your needles together, or when you just need something to hold it. And this is just a hook and latch. Then the tray comes out. Then you have some patterns back here. And this has crochet needles. And then for circular needles, you can put them all together and put a safety pin, and then they're easier to hold and to store. Then for your double pointed needles, sometimes they come in baggies, so you can keep that to store them. Or they come in containers, which you can keep. And then you just place all of your straight needles down here. Then you can use the rubber band to hold your double pointed needles, like so. And make sure your box is at least 16 inches wide, because the longest knitting needle is about 14. So as long as your box is about 16 inches, it should hold a standard needle. Another thing I found that was good was bedding bags. So this had a set of sheets in here, and it has a zipper, which makes it perfect for storage. Keep the cardboard at the bottom to hold its shape. It has pockets here to help storage. So when you're doing a pattern, you just put your pattern in there, your yarn, and then you put your needles. Then you put your large eye sewing needle in your pocket, your scissors for cutting your yarn. Then you put some stitch markers, and you put some stoppers. Then you just zip it up. And then it's easy to move it around, and you just keep your project in here until you're all done. A good thing for when you're following a pattern is to have it either in a notebook with a plastic shield here, or to put your pattern in a sheet protector. Now once you have that, you take a dry erase marker, preferably a darker color, and only do this while you're working on the pattern. Once you're going to set it aside or do it later, make sure to write this down on paper. But as you go down on your pattern, then you just take your dry erase marker and you just cross off all the rows that you completed. Then as you keep doing your work and you finish it and you're all done, then you just take a tissue and you wipe it off. And then that'll keep the mark of where you're at while you're knitting. If you're going to hold your work off till later, make sure to erase it because it could stain the plastic. But this is pretty good because you can keep track of where you're at, and then it easily just comes off. Here's a tip for if you've ever been at the store going to buy new needles and you're not sure what you have at home. So what you'll need to do, you need some blank index cards, a knitting gauge template like this one, and a pencil. Now this one I found with where you put the pop-up, when you pop up the new ones on the top, those seem to be small enough to fit in these tiny holes down here. But what you're going to make are these cards that you can carry with you that tells you what you have. So like this one says metal straight needles, 14 inches long. You have a 3, 7, 8, 10, 10 and a half, 13, and 15. And then you do it for everything else. So these are for shorter straight needles, for double pointed needles, and then circular needles. So what you're going to do is take your blank card. Then I took this, went a little bit from the top, and then you're just going to put a line. Just going to put a line across so that you can title it. And then you're going to, and they won't fit all the way across, so you can center it or whatever. And then you're just going to take your pencil and you're going to trace the circles. Then you're going to go back and you're going to write the numbers under each. And then you're going to mark what it is. So I'm going to do my bamboo straight needles. So then you go and you collect all your needles. So if you were doing double pointed that didn't have an indication of what they were, you would slide them through these to figure out what they were unless you already knew. But like this one is a size 4 bamboo straight needle. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to color in the number 4 circle. Then these are 5s. So do the same thing and color in the 5. And then these are 11s. So I'm going to go up here, color in the 11. You can even do like colored crayons or something to make it a little bit more noticeable. So then you keep that with you when you go out and you'll know which ones you have at home. And you just make them for all the different types that you have, and the double pointed and the circular and the different length ones, and you just keep them with you and then you'll never buy double of the same needles. Another way to store your needles, if you have a table or an area where you can just keep them out, is in a vase or some sort of jar that holds them for the height that they are. So you see these shorter ones here, they do sit nice and they hold the taller ones without tipping over. You have a smaller one down here for your double pointed needles. But if you have a vase or a tin, something that fits the height for them, This is the perfect way to store them out in the open. If you ever have a hard time finding your sewing needle, just hook it to a brightly colored piece of yarn, so when it's in with all your other things or with the yarn you're currently using, this bright color will keep it out in the open. If you're doing a pattern that calls for stitch markers, don't feel that you need to go out and buy the plastic ones or go buy stitch markers. All you gotta do is have some brightly colored or contrasting yarn to the work that you're doing. And you just make some slip knots. So you just hold your yarn, wrap it around, bring it through, and pull. Then you can adjust it. Try and make it as close to the bottom as you can. Go like that. Cut it off. And there's your stitch marker. Then once you use it, then you would slide it onto your needle and you would just lightly tighten it to fit. Then you'll know that every time you come across this, then you just slip it and that starts your next row. So I'll make one more. So you just hold it in front, probably could wrap it around one finger. So hold it in front, wrap around your finger, then pull it through the loop and tighten it. Then just cut it off. Then when you go to use it, then you just adjust it to your needle, and then there you have your stitch markers. And some of the projects that you'll do, you'll be alternating between different colored yarns. So sometimes it's not always easy to just have a big ball of yarn hanging behind your work, depending on where you knit. Sometimes people take it places and it could just get a little in the way, a little bit of a nuisance. So what you'll do is with your yarn, you're going to be making a bobble. Now the other one is an actual knitted bobble. This is just like a form of what it is. So you take your yarn and you just hold a little tail in the front. Then you're going to hold your fingers apart, your finger and your middle finger apart, and you're going to form a figure 8. Just go over the top, through the middle, around, and you just form a figure 8. And you keep going until you get the right amount of yarn. Now this is best for just small projects where you need to swap out, but you can also make multiple bobbles in one. So we'll just show one right now. So let's say this is how much you need. Then what you're going to do is go a little ways down and cut. Then you're going to take this tail and you're going to wrap it around the center of your bobble. Pick up the loop that you made from going around to the back and you're going to tuck it in. And then you're just going to pull it tight and then you have a bobble. So now when you go to knit, you're going to take this tail here and you're going to pull on it. And as you pull, it's just going to keep unraveling itself. That's what you do with the figure 8, causes it to be able to be pulled apart. So then you can just keep using it. Now if you wanted to make a double bobble, you'll have to first map out how much yarn you're going to do. So you just keep unraveling until you get a pile of yarn. Going to leave a tail and we're going to do the figure 8. And when you've got enough yarn on the one bobble, then you're going to wrap it around. And you'll have to take all the yarn, so you can just push it between your fingers. Just do at least a double wrap, and then you're going to pull all the yarn through the loop that you made by going in the back. So there's your first bobble. Then you're going to go down a little ways and you're going to create another figure 8. You just keep going until you use up your yarn. Then when you get to the last little bit, then you're going to wrap it around, pull it through the loop, and tighten it. So now you have a double bobble, so you can have extra yarn, and then you would just pull from the first bobble, you'd pull out the yarn, and you'd knit your project. So I hope this had some tips and tricks that you'll find useful and maybe be able to put towards your projects and how you knit. If you have any questions or maybe one that you'd like to add, please comment below and tell us your tips and tricks, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.